Your journey begins in Turkey as a comic artist. Which were your origins, like making comics there?
Well, I used to draw comics, and I would read comics and love drawing as a kid. So I was exposed to a lot of comics growing up, thanks to my parents bringing me all kinds of comics and stuff. So I always wanted to do comics. It wasn't easy to do comics in Turkey because there wasn't much superhero comics going on. So I found a few friends who were also interested in doing this. So we started doing our own fanzines, which we published our own comics. We just did it out of the love to learn the craft. And then I started publishing my work online, which really helped me to expose my artwork to the world. And I started getting jobs in time.
What was the reaction of your parents when they know that you want to be a comic book artist?
Well, they were always supportive. I was a very lucky guy, so in that sense, I didn't have any major things. But of course, they wanted me to have a proper art job rather than a comic book artist. So they tried to find me some jobs and stuff, but I said, look, I'm gonna handle this on my own. Thank you, but so I struggled for a bit. Of course, it wasn't easy starting off, but it happened, and I guess they didn't have any complaints.
Did you feel like any kind of, like, say, cultural shock when arriving to the USA to start making comics?
Well, I don't live in the USA. I do visit there sometimes, but to be honest, at the point in my career where I started to do American comics and started to make a name for myself, I started going to conventions as well. So it was like almost like a childhood dream come true, but I wasn't having that extreme shock, like a sudden thing. So it was like I eased into it in a way. So
what difference can you see between the Turkish comics and the American comics? Do you think that you have taken things from both sides?
I would say Turkish comics there aren't many traditional American style comics going on in Turkey a lot. Mostly it's humor comics that are really popular over there, and there has been some comics about Turkish heroes and Turkish mythology and stuff like that as well. But I particularly wasn't interested in that too much. I was mostly interested in the American comics, and as well as other European comics, and later manga. So I feel like I have more influence from those inspirations rather than the Turkish stuff. But you never know. So I grew over there, so maybe I infused that style or some stuff from the Turkish culture while evolving my art.
One of the first works for the American medium was in Image Comics. I mean, did you feel surprised that you started making superheroes?
Well, it was a time it was a strange thing. It was happening, and I was going with the flow. But I was also like, hey, I'm doing a comic through Image, which I love, and it's happening. It's like I've actually become a comic book artist. So that was a feeling of joy.
You have worked in the big three now, DC, Marvel, and Image. After that, do you still feel that spark that make you draw in the very first days?
Yeah, of course, because I mean, the blessing and cursing of art is you always want to do better, and it's a never-ending process. So the more you do and the more you want to get better, the harder your job gets because there's never an end. It's just like you have to keep going. So there's this constant revolving of enjoying your own work and also hating your own work. So that's the way I view my art. So doing comics has always have been a really passionate thing for me.
Is there any like a pending debt, like an unresolved thing that you had on either on comics or anything that you like to do in another medium? Say, I don't know, movies.
Oh, okay. I'm really not so much interested in doing anything else. I always wanted to be a comic book artist all my life, so I'm happy with what I do. And I have a lot of creative freedom on what I do because there's not so many people are involved in this. I studied animation, so I know a bit of animation and how a movie is made. So like, there's so many people involved. Like, so you're just the small parts of the cog, and especially when it comes to commercial artwork, like advertisements or movies. There are so many outside input that your work becomes sort of maybe a bastardized version of what it was supposed to be.
Control of your
Yeah, so like comics is not like that. In comics, you know, it can be only just two people or even one guy, you know, doing, or one woman doing this. So like that gives you a lot of freedom, and I really appreciate that with art, comics. Even if I do something else, it will be just like experimenting for a bit. But I think I will always go back to comics. Yeah.
Do you feel a need to draw a particular character or to tell a particular story?
I'm at the point in my career that I was lucky enough to draw a lot of the characters that I really wanted to. So I'm checking off a lot of things off my list. There are a few, but at this point, I feel like I would be most passionate of doing something of my own for a bit, something that people will know me by, and that that will be remembered with me. My own Hellboy in a way, you know. So not that I'm comparing myself to the Mignola, but still. So in the future, I'm looking forward to that.
You've come a long way since you first started. It feels like the more comics jobs you get, like the higher you climb in your career. How do you see yourself in the future?
It's a tricky thing. I've been very lucky that I feel that almost every project that I did, I got a bigger project after that. But the thing is, I'm a realist, so I know things. A career in comics is not like always a uphill climb. It's gotta have some ups and downs. So I'm preparing myself for that. But I hope it won't go down, of course. But yeah, I'm lucky to be where I am. I'm happy to be where I am. I feel like I'm gonna do my best work. I mean, yet, so I feel things are looking good in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Mahmud.
Thank you for talking to me. Thank you. Cheers.